Oh man, we got some juice. What's up, peeps? Welcome back to the channel. Today we talk about two of the more well-known names in the Apex Legends scene going back and forth all over a recent update by the Apex devs. We're talking about ImperialHal versus Snip3down, but firstly, Hal going off on Apex devs what he feels like is a spit in the face after he sat down with a 1v1 with a dev and gave them a recommendation which they went against in a recent update as we slowly approach the biggest Apex tournament of all time with $2 million on the line. Keep that in mind. As he said, I just love getting mega nerfed right before the biggest Apex tourney to date with less than a month given to practice and expected to adapt because the devs are just completely out of touch with the comp scene. Had a call with a one-on-one dev to discuss changes to Apex competitive, and I was asked if they should change the percentage on the beacon spawns for POIs and told them definitely not. Then probably the day after they changed it, and then they wonder why the F I don't give my opinion just to get spit in the face the next day. One more thing, they nerfed the loot on all of the maps but didn't touch certain POIs with guaranteed loot like Harvester Countdown, Mill, etc., which aka DZ land, so I'm betting my bank account they will win champs, but no pro teams even realize that because they are brain dead. And yeah, that's a lot to freaking take in. All in all, it seems a recent update had actually changed the percentage or the beacon spawn percentage across the map for certain POIs, and he was very upset with this. It seemed that before some of these POIs were more predictable for the beacon and said other things, and now they have made it so all of the map has an equal RNG chance of getting those things spawned. So it's still very much RNG in a battle royale sense, and a lot of pros actually disagree with Hal on this one. I'm sure some did agree. The fact of this, that yes, we are less than 1 month away from ALGS champs, the biggest tournament of the year, $2 million in the line. Should there be a change this big that affects some teams? I personally don't think so, and so I think that's the biggest point I would agree with Hal on. We're approaching the biggest tournament, you release a pretty big change, and they have less than a month to actually practice with that change. That does suck. Is this a better overall change for the grand scope of things moving forward? That might very well be, and a lot of pro players talked about that. As it was actually Snip3down responded to this saying, this is actually one of the best competitive changes to date. There is no reason you should get 90+% beacon spawn rate and some of the best loot / zone POIs in the game. I'm not speaking directly at your team, but in general, this makes the game much more balanced. And these two go back and forth for a Bible. Let's prepare to read, class. Hal then goes, we get the best POIs because teams like you can't fight for crap off spawn. Since you and so many other teams get skill gapped, you cry about RNG with spawn rate. That, I feel like throughout all of this, Hal is Hal, right? Hal makes these comments all the time. I don't take him too seriously. I don't think he takes it that seriously either. But I feel bad for Snipe, man. He was just being civil, had a nice, calm, civil response, in my opinion, gave his facts and the reasoning behind his statement, and then Hal just like goes for the freaking throat. Snipe saying, we have defended our POIs from any team that has challenged us at them. You're the supposed best team crying 2 weeks into scrims about a dev not listening to only you and turning an RNG factor into an even playing field for all. It's really not that deep. First of all, I can cry and still be the best team in the game. Second of all, you even landed a good POI in the first place. If you did, your brain would comprehend what I'm saying. Lastly, I've complained for maybe the last 2 years and still won, so stay in your lane, old man, under first place. Snipe says, you wrote the same thing twice in steps 1 and 3 here, boss, and complaining is fine, but thinking you got spit in the face because you didn't get listened to is just being entitled. We both know at this point it doesn't work like that. I also love our POIs. No complaints here. Hal says, the same way I'm entitled to my opinion is the same way you feel entitled it's right that POI beacon change is good and should be a thing. You haven't talked to the devs as much as I have, and they've always looked the other way, so yes, it's a spit in the face. And Snip3down says, no, you can't write as if I haven't been through this. There's a reason I don't work as close with the devs. It's because I've written pages, gone to testing events, sat down with devs, and given opinions I knew were positive changes that get drowned out. Everyone can have an opinion. No one is entitled to the results of it. I'd be just as fine if the change never happened. And that's a great line, man. Everyone can have opinions, but not everyone is entitled to what happens with said opinion, right? And ultimately, it seems the devs probably did not, I would assume, okay? I would assume the devs did not just talk to Hal on this change. I would hope they talked to many of pro players or many of competitive players and then got their feedback and still went against his recommendation, hopefully for the better of the competitive, if not the casual side of the game too. I do agree with Hal that this close to a competition, this does suck. But I can see Snip3down's point if he thinks this is actually a more fair way, more fair RNG across the whole map, to be maybe having every POI the same percentage chance to have these things spawn, as opposed to having certain POIs be more predictable to have them instead. If this is a better way to give everyone a chance at having an advantage, as opposed to a few select teams who choose their POIs, that just really depends on how you think the competitive side should be played. And there's always going to be players out there who do have inherent bias. I appreciate Albra and the way I always called him Abra, by the way, freaking A. I like the way he puts things out there, because he says, hey, I actually agree with this update. I do have a bias because, with my POI, this is a buff for us, but he does think it's overall good for competitive. I think the point Hal has to lean on here is the fact that we're so close to a $2 million competition. I think a lot of people in his shoes, with an update, directly influencing their drop for a huge multi-million-dollar tournament, I would be upset too. The two just going back and forth. You love it when some old heads out there with a lot of passion for the space going back and forth. I think Snip3down certainly held his own with his arguments. We'll see how this actually shifts things up as we approach ALGS Champs, which I certainly will be watching. It's going to be freaking sick. I wish I could be there in person. And then going forward, we'll see how this impacts other teams. And if it makes the competitive side, does it have a meaningful change? Does it really mean much at all? And will this be for the better or for the worse? And we'll see how it all plays out. But for now, Hal has predicted DZ to win another one. So we'll see if it actually happens. Till next time, take care. Whose side are you on? What do you guys think? Thanks for subbing, okay? Drink water and coffee. Bye-bye.